But for every youngster, especially when you're looking at an Endrick who recognises that he is the next one to the throne in Brazil. He's the next one that everyone's relying on to be that player to lead them success. I would even say as early as 26. He's got to be ready to go in 2026.
So 1-0 after the first leg in San Sebastian. They will now obviously go back to the Bernabeu. The other tie, that insane match yesterday, 4-4. That'll be going back. Just a 4-4. The problem is that we're not going to be seeing these next legs for about 5 weeks. So just remember these scores and print them in your brain, because it's going to be a while before we see them again. Let's talk about Real Madrid, and let's talk about Endrick specifically. But Endrick, we want to see him play a bit more. We obviously, it's so difficult to get into this side when you have guys like Vinny Jr., Kylian Mbappé, obviously, Rodrigo. But every time this kid gets his opportunities, he's putting the ball in the back of the net. What needs to happen? Will he be able to break through and get all the minutes he needs, or is he going to have to eventually go find some football elsewhere?
Listen, it's Real Madrid. It's an institutional football, and any youngster in their right mind would want to be at a club like Real Madrid, especially right now with the success that they're having, obviously domestically in multiple competitions and an international stage, obviously involved in multiple competitions. Who doesn't want to be a part of that? Of course. But for every youngster, especially when you're looking at an Endrick who recognises that he is the next one to the throne in Brazil. He's the next one that everyone's relying on to be that player to lead them success. I would even say as early as 26. He's got to be ready to go in 2026. So for him, regular minutes is going to be more and more valuable. The only way you can get regular minutes at Real Madrid is by putting out top-class performances and becoming a favourite of Ancelotti. The only thing this kid can do when he starts is score goals. And the only thing this kid is doing when he is starting is scoring goals. You don't see much from him off the field. He continues to hold himself in great way. And therefore, he wins a lot of respect from Ancelotti. And when you're liked around the Bernabeu, and when people love you around the training ground, they want to see you succeed. So I will be very surprised if you don't see Endrick getting more opportunity between now and the end of the season, not only in this competition, but in another competition as well. Let's not forget the games that are coming up, Stefano. Massive games in the Champions League in particular that might not work out for Kylian, Rodrigo, Vinny Jr., Jude Bellingham and all those ones. It might not work out for the starting 11. Who do you turn to on the bench? When you've got a kid that you know that you can rely on that finishes opportunities like that, first chance in the game, buries it with the outside of his boot. He's just class, and I think the future is incredibly bright for him. So right now, be patient, try to see where you stand with Real Madrid. They'll let you know what to do.
Hey, if he keeps scoring, like you mentioned, he keeps scoring goals in big moments. Like you said, at some point, they're going to find themselves in a matchup in the Champions League where it's not going the way they want. And don't be shocked if a Rodrigo comes out of the game, if a Vinny Jr. has to come out of the game, and Endrick can step right in. He's proven that he can do it and do it against the best competition as well.
You know, we obviously watched what happened with Atletico Madrid against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey, and substitutes making a big impact for Atletico Madrid. We could see that also for Real Madrid between now and the end of the season, because you're starting to get tired minds, tired legs with the games that they've played already this season. I think it's like 48 games or something ridiculous that they've played now. If you're looking at the top players at Real Madrid, it's a number that's very difficult to manage, obviously, as you've got maybe 20 games left to go all the way through to a Champions League final. So managing minutes for Ancelotti is going to be key. I just love what Real Madrid stand for. It was a professional performance. It was another respectful performance, and Lunin gets his opportunity and brings out another top-class performance as well. A clean sheet, you get the one goal from the youngster, you move on to the second leg, and you move on to the next game that's coming up, obviously very fast for Real Madrid. I know they've got Betis and Antony to worry about at the weekend.
Yes, they sure do. Betis will, Antony will be playing in that match for Betis after his red card was rescinded. But you mentioned the fixture congestion and what that does to a club. We also talked about how some teams can play at maybe a 70%, 80%, and maybe forced to play at that 80% because of all the matches that they're playing. And because of that, I think Real's biggest strength is being as clinical as they are with their chances, because they're not always playing at 100%, because I think it's physically impossible at this point with the amount of fixtures that they play. So is that their biggest strength? Because they take their chances, they make sure they get it, and they're a professional club that can get out with a result.
For some of them, yes. Clinical. You can clearly see it. We've broken down Endrick's numbers, the starts that he's made and the goals that he's scored. It's like, what, 4 starts and 6 goals? It's a crazy number. But I think that if you look at the big dogs, obviously Kylian Mbappé is starting to improve now. His goals are starting to flow like we're so used to seeing with Kylian Mbappé. Vinny Jr. missed a big opportunity in that game. He had another opportunity he should have scored in as well. We've seen that a few times from Vinny Jr. this year when he's got himself into a goal-scoring position. Maybe the better pass on to Kylian Mbappé was there. In the last game at home, he decided to go himself, eventually got his goal. But there's a big stature at Real Madrid. To be the king, you've got to be the one that everyone's talking about and scoring goals. They're not always as consistent in front of goal, but they're getting damn close right now. And this Real Madrid is a real worry for everyone, including Atleti, obviously, coming up in the Champions League. And I don't see Real Sociedad having much of a chance in the second leg.
Would you say that Real Madrid's playing their best football of the year right now?
Yes, because I've watched almost every Real Madrid game this season, and I would say that Real Madrid have gradually just kind of got into pace. We saw what happened in Supercopa, obviously, against Barcelona. Champions League wasn't always pretty for them, but they got the job done and then eventually knocked out Manchester City. For me, they're a team that is continuously putting themselves into a position to succeed when it matters most. Doesn't have to happen in the first 10, 15 games of a season. You can absolutely lose a domestic campaign then. You can get knocked out of the Champions League then. But if you just take care of business and you start to have your players healthy and at their best peak performance between now and the end of the season, like they are, we're starting to see how they score goals. And to add to what you pointed out there, they're scoring goals in different ways. It's not just penalty kicks and free kicks that they're dangerous at. It's not goals from outside the box. We've seen Valverde, every strike from outside the box. It's not just the ones that they build through the middle. It's not the ones they go... Look at the way Real Madrid are scoring goals. How do you defend that? You don't know where they're coming at you. They're deadly right now, and certainly a big, big worry in the Champions League once again.
But before we wrap up this game, unfortunately, we have to talk about what happened with Vinny Jr. captaining the side for the first time today and unfortunately dealing with racist abuse. La Liga or Real Madrid or Vinny Jr., no one has put out an official statement as of yet, but the referee did stop the match. Referee Vinny Jr. got into it with some fans, and there was an announcement on the screen saying, please refrain from using any racist language and do not abuse the players. It is sad. We want to get this absolutely out of our game. There is no place for it. And it seems like Vinny Jr. has really gotten the brunt of it yet again.
Yeah, it's not fair. It should be kicked out of our game, but I just don't have any answers as to how you get rid of it out of the game. There are certainly countries that have a much more difficult period of time with racism, trying to get it out of their game than others. But it's starting to be there more and more frequently when we're talking about the beautiful game being an ugly game. It's happening more frequently on our show and on our network. I don't know how you eradicate this. I don't know how you get rid of it. I mean, inside stadiums, we have massive coverage with cameras now trying to pick out individuals to get rid of what they're even saying to players right now. I do say this, though, the referee, Jose Sanchez, handled the situation incredibly well. Yes. And the only way I feel, and I've been in that position where one of my teammates has been racially abused and the game was stopped immediately then, but in this game in particular, stopped by the referee, went and spoke to, obviously, Vinny, spoke to the captains, and then spoke to the two managers and took care of the situation and made sure that he made the right decision that was best for the players out there on the pitch and for everyone involved in this game. Sometimes you got to take the game away from the fans when this continues to happen. And that's where we're going. If this doesn't kick it out of our game, very quickly, you're going to start to see players walk off the field, take the product away. I'd be beside my players if that happened. I'd be standing right alongside them, supporting them all the way. I've seen it multiple times in my career where it was terrible in England growing up. I saw it even worse with discrimination across multifacets. In Germany, it was awful to see what human beings had to go through. But this keeps happening to Vinny Jr. And at some point, we've got to find a way to protect this young fella. Because mental health comes into play for me, but also not forgetting that this guy is a human after all. He's not just a superstar footballer. He's a human being, and we have to protect him and protect that human a lot better than we are right now.
And protect our game. Just because you are a fan and you pay money to go to a stadium does not give you the right to say whatever you want to say towards these players. Vinny Jr. With a comment on Instagram saying, living unforgettable moments with my dream club. So he's staying positive after what happened. So he was obviously captain for the very first time for Real Madrid. So he's having an historic moment for him in his career. So you love to see him that he's being positive after this. But again, if you're watching this, if you're a football fan, don't be that guy. Don't be that person that goes out there and uses that just terrible language towards anybody, specifically to a player that you have paid money to go and watch. Doesn't give you the right to say whatever you would like to say to those players.